John Davis, Chief Meteorologist of Everstream Analytics. So I was a student at Madison, Wisconsin in meteorology. E.F. Hutton at the time had only hired meteorologists from the University of Wisconsin. So within a week, they flew me out to New York. They offered me the job. I took it. So that began 20 years with what became Citigroup at the time, doing agricultural risk management overall. Sure, then energy became a big part of that, energy trading, natural gas and power and things like that. Then after that, the recent has been supply chain logistics. You know, the end-to-end part of the supply chain, the beginning of it is agriculture, growing things or energy, then going through and making products, transporting products, looking at supply chain disruptions, all of that thing. So the pathway has been, it's kind of interesting, things just happen. The responsibilities are looking at supply chain disruptions. So weather and climate and disruptions within the overall supply chain. And that means weather disruptions of things like ports, cargo airports, shipping lanes, road and rail. Any place where things can be affected from a weather standpoint overall, then the team is responsible for and beginning to get that data, communicate that data, put that data in the platform overall. Tropical activity. And whether a tropical system, whether it's a typhoon in the Westpac, whether it's a hurricane in the Atlantic, looking at that as to how that will specifically impact things to a grid point level. And we have clients that have facilities, all over the place. And, the difference of 30, 40 miles, from, kind of core, damage events here are a huge issue from a grid point level when you're looking at street level and looking at production facilities overall. I know more about mayonnaise than you can believe. Get this, so Unilever is a big client of ours. And so all mayonnaise in North America, every ounce is made on the south side of Chicago. There, and they ship it out, and the amount that's shipped out of that one facility, that's a great example because that's the end-to-end supply chain. They're interested in agriculture, interested in transportation of that to the plant in Chicago, but then once they make that, then how do they transport that out of there? Or some of the mayonnaise sits in the lot, basically the parking lot, it's sensitive there too. So a very sensitive product. A lot of that's a data-driven, looking at every kilometer around a rail route, around a truck route, and looking at the thresholds here. And we work with the clients out there and looking at overall, what are the thresholds that begin to have problems with mayonnaise, for example. Yeah, so we've built databases, so we have all that data going in using many of the global models, some of the mesoscale models overall. And so we're doing metrics, for example, in Chicago, as to looking at overall, events, if you will, temperature events, precipitation events, and will that affect transportation within the Chicago area, road and rail. So when we think there's going to be disruptions, then we alert many of our clients that this situation from a predictive standpoint within like 8 or 9 days, that's likely going to have some disruptions. And so then they can mitigate that risk. There's nothing more important than communication. Relating sometimes very sophisticated information to the end user and communicating that to the level that they're at. So nowadays, a lot of the things that we do are data-driven. And so if you're a company making mayonnaise in Chicago and you're shipping that out, huge exposure, the data, the platform, it will get you about 80, 85% there. It'll never get you all the way there. So then the expertise, we help them make decisions overall on that additional 10 or 15%. That's that gray area. So they come to us for our expertise, looking at small levels of temperature extremes, and it's interpreting data, communicating things overall. And again, lots of times on the logistics side, they have no knowledge of weather, no knowledge of meteorology. I give you an example there as to AB InBev is a big account of ours. And so when they shut a brewery, that's a huge deal. They never want to shut a brewery. They always want to keep making beer. And so, we were giving them some of the data, some of the probabilities as to what would be happening. The other thing that I would add to that is, being a team player. One of the things when we hire, one of the things that we tend to look at is, you know, being a team player, being part of a team, and being a good person, being fun, you know, having a good time doing anything. But being a team player, that is really, really important. We all love education, all love going to college, but notice what's happening in the real world, things that are changing in the real world, because things tend to change in the real world pretty fast. But you know, have that knowledge, get as many internships as you can, and not even an internship. Just, you know, call somebody up and I want to visit you for a day. Get out there and experience things and learn. Take that passion that you have of weather and then begin to think, where can that work?